Hello again and welcome to ISAC Software Academy Linux course. In this lesson we will be covering basic command line navigation and general command line use. We will be beginning this lesson with a theoretical introduction and covering the basics until later on when we use a practical demonstration to solidify those concepts. The most common question asked in reference to the command line is why use it? The best answers are that it can be used when the graphical interface, which in this case we are referencing as X Windows, is broken. In this instance, you would need to use the command line to repair it by either manually changing the configuration files to fix the issue, or potentially having to reinstall or upgrade the X installation using the appropriate upgrade and installation tools available on that Linux system. There is also the possibility that X is unavailable on a system, which is most commonly seen in server systems and embedded systems, where a graphical interface is not required and in fact would degrade performance. Some servers do use a graphical interface, however, by default, most server systems will not have one. There is also the issue of using Telnet or SSH, where command line use is mandatory. There is some tools available that will provide a graphical overlay to the command line structure underneath it. However, these tools are not always available, and as such, what is available will be the standard Telnet and SSH programs on the command line. Finally, some programs require configuration to be done purely through parameters passed to it via the command line, and do not use external configuration files of any kind. These sorts of programs require you to use the command line, and as such you cannot avoid it. The Linux command line is very similar to DOS in appearance, and also shares some commands such as cd, which stands for changed directory, or dir, which is short for directory, which is a method of listing the directory. The Linux command line is incredibly powerful. It is capable of doing many things other command line systems are not capable of. In comparison, DOS is very primitive, however also had some advanced features such as the ability to run scripts, which in DOS were known as .bat or batch files. These allowed you to automate command line tasks and save yourself a great deal of time. The methods used to write these scripts vary considerably between DOS and Linux, and DOS has considerably less commands available to it than Linux does, which is one of the many reasons why the Linux command line is so powerful. The first command that we will be covering is the ls command. This is similar to the dir or directory command in DOS. However, this one is used specifically on Linux systems, and it stands for list. It will list the files and folders in your current directory unless you provide it with a path, which it will accept a relative or absolute path. A relative path is a path that you specify as one in which you get to from your present path location, and an absolute path is specified by stating the slash meaning root of the drive, and as such will go down until you reach the exact path you're looking for. The switch modifiers that are most commonly used with the ls command are -L for long listing, which displays the extra details for the files and directories, the -A command, which displays all files including those that are hidden, and the -H command, which is used in combination with the -L command to list the sizes rather than in bytes, in kilobytes, megabytes or gigabytes, etc. This stands for human readable format and is simply a way of making it easier to identify file sizes. The cd command is used identically to the way it is in DOS, with the one exception is that the way you refer to a path uses the opposite direction slash, which can cause quite a bit of confusion for those who are familiar with DOS and new to Linux. Also to keep in mind is that there is no C or D or B or A or any other letter drives in order to reference. As such, you must reference the partition you wish from the root drive, which is simply a /. As is the case with the ls command and pretty much all Linux commands that accept a path of any description, it will accept both relative and absolute paths. The cat command is used to list the contents of a file. The file that is listed can be of any type, however it would be preferable to limit it only to text files, as there is no real need to list out executable or binary files. If you wish to do something like that, it would be preferable to use a hex editor or something similar. The cat command is most often used with the grep command, which is mentioned next, and this allows you to be more selective in what is returned by the commands when you enter them. The grep command is used to search through for strings or patterns in whatever input you give to it. If you list out a file's contents using cat, you can pipe it to grep by using the pipe symbol, which is located above the enter key. By doing this, you would type in cat space pipe space grep and then the string or pattern that you were looking for specifically, and this would give the output of cat to grep, and the string listed or pattern listed for grep would be used to search through that output. This is usually referred to as an advanced command line feature. However, it is common enough to mention here. You can do editing on the command line using nano, joe, vi, and vim. Vi and vim are related, and in fact vim stands for vi improved. Vi is well known for its complexity in use and is generally avoided by those new to Linux. It is a very popular choice for older, more experienced Linux users who are familiar with its operation and know its commands intimately. Another editor not listed here is Emacs, which was and still is quite popular amongst Linux enthusiasts, especially those who have been part of the Linux community for some time. The editors most commonly found on Linux distributions are naturally Vi and Vim. They are almost universal, in fact. However, their complexity makes things difficult, and the likes of Nano and Joe are preferred for newer users. Of the two, Nano is probably more universal than Joe. However, it is quite often to see all of these installed on a system where space is not a concern. That concludes the theory portion of this lesson. We will now move to demonstrate these in a practical fashion. On the command line, we will start by listing the directory that we are presently in, which in this instance is the home directory. We will type in ls and hit enter. As you can see, it lists the files and folders or directories in this particular directory, and you can see in this instance, which is not always the case, that these are listed by highlighting the directories in blue. The white file is quite simply a file, I believe a text file, which we will now use cat to list. Now on the command line you can use the tab key, which, as I'll demonstrate here, completes that line. Now when we hit enter, as you can see, it is a text file and it lists all of that text that is in that file. This is how you would use the pipe to grep to go for, let's say, folder, and enter. I apologize, I forgot to include the file name for cat, and then a pipe, and then grep, and I should list the lines that contain the word folder. And as you can see, it is highlighted in red and lists only the line that says icon equal folder. Next, we shall use the cd command to go up one directory by saying ... and hitting enter. As you can see, we are now in the /home directory, which houses only my user account folder here. However, using ls-a will show all, including the hidden files or folders. In this instance, the only hidden folders are dot, and there are no files. Going back into my home directory, however, and doing the same command, will list many more files than we saw earlier. Anything starting with a dot in a Linux file system is considered a hidden file or folder. As you can see, there's quite a few. I will now demonstrate a long listing by typing in -l. As you can see, you get a lot more information, including a file size, which is listed here. And if we do the -l H, we will now get that listed as kilobytes rather than purely as bytes. Finally, there is minus LAH. Now keep in mind you can put these in any order, there is nothing saying that you can't do it as that. HAL, it will do the exact same thing. As you can see, it now does all three of those options, and you can see that listed there. I hope this has helped you understand the Linux command line, and we'll see you in the next lesson.